On June 7, 2017, Randy Stair walked into work at a Weis Market in Eaton Township, Pennsylvania. He worked overnight stocking shelves. On this night, he was working with 4 people. Victoria Brong, assistant manager, a 26-year-old mother of 1 who worked the night shift in order to spend time with her son. Terry Lee Sterling, a man who stocked shelves. He was a 63-year-old grandfather of 2. Brian Hayes, who also stocked shelves, a Navy vet who served during Operation Desert Storm, a husband and father of 1, and Kristen Newell, a woman who only worked the night shift once a week. Just before 1 a.m., Randy Stair would begin his rampage. With 2 shotguns, he killed Victoria Brong, Terry Lee Sterling, and Brian Hayes. Kristen Newell would be the only survivor and the one to call 911. Before the police came, Randy Stair turned the gun on himself. Randy Stair had a YouTube channel, multiple ones in fact. There were red flags that there was something wrong with him, dating back to the early 2010s. Starting with somewhat edgy content, he moved into darker and darker content, till he flipped a coin, deciding not only his own fate, but the fate of those in the store that night. This is a look at Randy Stair, from his early life to that night. It's not to condone his actions. There are many red flags that something was wrong. So many, in fact, that there is a possibility that all of this could have been prevented. Randy Stair was born on September 17, 1992, to Robert and Lori Stair. He was their oldest child, with a younger brother named Jeremy. Randy was shy, quiet. At a young age, he didn't seem to want to be the center of attention. In school, he would always look away when he was talked to. He was introverted, preferring to be alone. But he did have an artistic side. He loved Nickelodeon cartoons, and that is going to be a running theme throughout the later part of this video. He would draw Danny Phantom, Timmy Turner, and other characters in his notebooks, which Danny Phantom, again, will become a running theme later on. Other than those things, Randy's life was average. Nothing really of note happened to him besides once breaking his collarbone. So far, no red flags that something was wrong. But this is going to change a bit as we go on. In 2008, Randy would start his first YouTube channel, Pioneersproductions. Well, it wasn't his first channel. He did have a channel where he would edit movie clips, but that went down because of copyright issues. So this was early YouTube, which I have touched in an earlier video. Things were a lot different than they are now. One of the main differences was content. Nowadays, everything looks stylish and awesome in HD. Back then, things that were the norm were goofy skits at a low budget. Go ahead, do a little bit of a search of old angry video game nerd, Nostalgia Critic, and Linkara and others. One thing you'll notice is their skit-heavy productions. Things like voiceovers dubbed in either really high or really low tones, inanimate objects that were used to portray living things, bad acting, and in the case of Linkara and Nostalgia Critic, really bad acting. So Randy would be inspired to make content like this. But he had a certain inspiration when it came to coming up with this stuff. Damian Sanders Barron ran a channel called Make Me Bad 35. Damian would have an internet friendship with Randy and the two collabed. Randy would be inspired by Damian's Mr. Wooden Alligator videos, which Damian would do skits in which a wooden alligator was harassing him, which would lead to Randy creating Mr. Horsehead. Same premise pretty much. But he dropped that soon, and after finding a toy frog at a shopping cart at Weis, he had an idea. It was a dirty toy he decided to clean, and then there was Mr. Whale.
Fuck!
Whoa, what the fuck?
That was a cock!
What the fuck are you doing?
I pretended to be a cock.
Are you fucking serious?
I'd like for you and I to go romancing. Say the word, your wish is my command.
Shit, you're gonna wake up my fucking parents.
You mean you still haven't told them about us?
What? No, there is no us.
What about those nights when we cuddled under the stars?
I am gonna rip you in half and stuff you like a turkey if you don't get out of here.
You're my good old-fashioned lover boy.
I ain't your lover and I ain't your boy. I'm your maker and I'll fucking end you.
Then why are you in there all steaming hot?
Here comes the first red flag in hindsight. Mr. Whale was a perverted orca that really wanted to do some things to Randy in these skits. And I'm not talking about watching television or taking him to a baseball game. Let's just say it was a bit sexual in nature, the things that the orca wanted to do. Around this time in 2010, Randy got a job at McDonald's. But 3 hours into his first day, he quit, which didn't go over well with his father. His parents expected him to work as he was 18 years old. They expected him to pull his own weight in life. So his father got him a job at Weis Supermarkets. Weis is a chain of grocery stores in Pennsylvania and in New York. I have shopped at one. Some things can be very expensive there. Robert Stair happened to be a manager at a store, so he pretty much could get away with hiring his son. Randy became a paid partner in YouTube in 2011. So with ambitions to be a filmmaker and just graduating high school, he looked towards the future. He would go to a community college after this, but he never cared for it. He went there for 3 years. He would remain with this channel, Pioneersproductions, until 2015. On January 12th, 2015, Randy would upload an anthology to end Pioneersproductions. This anthology wasn't to look at the good times. It was dark, disturbing, and it was an end to his old content. The first video in this anthology was titled Amnesia Rape, in which Froggy and Mr. Whale would do things to Randy while videotaping. The second was called The Search for Remember.
10 years. 10 years of shit!
We all have our desires. Most of the time, if they're within reason, they always come true. But why not this one? Why are we cursed to listen to a mono mix of one of the catchiest songs in animation history? Whoever's idea it was to release this song in such poor quality should be fired. I've tried everything. I've searched endlessly on the internet, and it always led to dead ends.
Which Froggy reveals that he has a full track of the song Remember from Danny Phantom. It is revealed to be a dream, but when Randy wakes up and goes online, he finds the song. The third video is called Execution.
I like it rough. Whoa, 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 take it easy. What's gone into you?
Kill him!
Look, if it's about the amnesia rape thing, we could just pretend that it never happened.
I know you're the one who uploaded it! Now the whole world knows I had anal sex with a whale!
But I didn't.
I don't believe you.
It was all Froggy's idea. He was pissed that you beat him up and prevented him from getting a viral video published on the internet. If I never took the SD card out of the camera, you would have seen the footage. Uh-oh.
You know something? All these years, I've put up with your shit. Your homosexuality, your constant masturbating, and most of all, the public humiliation that you've caused me.
Now, Randy, we can figure out something. Baby cakes, cutie pie. God, your crotch is hot.
Randy, please. You don't need to do this.
Do you realize what you've done? You had a gold mine on that laptop, Froggy. When you threw that in the swamp, you didn't just break my heart. You ripped it out, stomped on it, and turned it to dust.
I'm being 150% serious here. I'm so sorry for everything.
You're sorry? Well, sorry doesn't fix public humiliation.
I'll give you anything, dude. Just please get me the fuck out of here.
I can't do that, Froggy. What kind of fool do you take me for? You think I was born yesterday?
Why are you doing this?
Because she told me to.
Where Randy kills Froggy and Mr. Whale and puts their bodies in a box. The fourth video, Resurrection, sees the ghosts of Froggy and Mr. Whale chasing Randy till they are stopped by Ember McLean, a ghost from the show Danny Phantom.
It's
I'm gonna enjoy this. Oh!
Ember! Do it!
Are you insane?
Just do it!
Get down!
In the final video, Absolution, the box the bodies are in is burned. At the end, after conversing with Ember, he says he's ready, takes a gun to his head, and pretends to take his own life. His content got dark at the end of the channel's life, but it was by design, because before he ended the channel and the content he had been making, he had already began to obsess over Ember from Danny Phantom.
Thanks for taking me trick-or-treating, Andrew. I've always wanted to do this.
Yeah, just pick a house.
Trick-or-treat!
Randy had been a fan of Danny Phantom long before he made a YouTube channel. Danny Phantom was created by Butch Hartman, who also created The Fairly Odd Parents. It was more of a superhero show. The story of a boy who gets powers of a ghost through a freak accident, then goes on to fight ghosts. One of the ghosts he fights is Ember McLean, a punkish-looking female ghost with the power to mesmerize through music. It was roughly around 2013 when the music that was used for the show was released onto YouTube. Through this music, Randy rekindled his love for the show. But that love turned into something more for Ember McLean. It was also in 2013 that Randy's best friend died in a car accident, and then his grandfather passed away. To cope, he began to think about death obsessively. Another way for him to cope came with Ember's Ghost Squad. In 2015, EGS, as it's also known, would become Randy's world. He dropped the name Randy Stair, instead going with the name Andrew Blaze. He would animate his own version of Ember and create a squad of female ghosts alongside, including one of himself. The story he created and the universe he created told of a roving band of ghosts who seek out depressed, outcasts, and lost souls.
Bullies, the pestering tormentors of grade school. Outcasts, those who are rejected by others in the social hierarchy. Every human being on the planet Earth is divided into a social zone. Although grade school bullies temporarily inflict harm to their selected victims, in the end they almost always walk away unscathed. They pass through life as if nothing happened behind the walls of the prison that every child on Earth has had to be locked behind. However, there comes a time in everyone's life when they need to take a stand.
You've humiliated me for the last time, Jared. Playtime's over.
In spite of the repercussions.
Sometimes they show themselves, take lives if need be, all to grow their ranks. All wear bracelets on their left wrists. All keep the scars and traits they had in life. All facial features resemble Ember, just with different clothes and hairstyles, but all are female. There are no males. And well, the newly named Andrew Blaze did not give the members of this roving group of spirits good deaths. Some are really graphic, like the character of Mackenzie West, who happened to be a favorite of Randy's. To the point, he called her his lover. Mackenzie's backstory was she was tied up, drugged, tortured, raped, and brutally murdered. The most baffling part is he hired voice actors to help him with these. I really want to know what they were thinking when reading some of this stuff he was doing. You can find the synopsis, deaths of each member, and other things on an old EGS website, which I am not going to link. Just Google it if you're interested. So, I need to address some things before going into the next chapter, mostly about his mental state. I wanted to make it its own section because I wanted to get all the facts out before I talk about mental illness. First and foremost, I have seen some sites labeling him as she because he did state that he was a woman inside a man's body, and would cross-dress when his family wasn't home. I do not mean to misgender anyone. I'm going to explain why I came to the decision to call Randy a he. The first reason is, Randy believed that he was going to transition into a girl when he died and joined the EGS. Second is he was quite homophobic. A bit of an egotistical person around the time he confessed to this. So it's a slippery slope, and I did debate whether or not to use he or she pronouns, but came to the conclusion of he, since all this happened before he decided that death would be the transition, and I couldn't find evidence he ever wanted to be called she. I hope people understand or are not offended by me using he instead of she. Randy thought the EGS was real, that Ember was real, and he was destined to join them. He even had Twitter accounts for each member and would use them to talk to one another. Also claimed that they talked to him, but his obsession with death, ghosts, and the afterlife seemed to have started when he was in middle school, but ramped up in 2015. He considered Ember his goddess. He claimed that she helped him see the way. He admitted she was his first crush. So hopefully the point was made that he was in dire need of mental help at this point. But he refused to seek mental help, claiming psychiatrists and psychologists would never be able to understand him, that therapy would alter him. So I can't help but look at this and see a disturbing parallel to what is happening to Chris Chan within the last couple of years. Not saying that Chris would murder anyone, she seems less likely for that, but creating a world off another's intellectual property, then feeling like one of the OCs is the person's lover, hearing the voices of these OCs and the intellectual property itself, it's frighteningly similar to Chris Chan and Sonichu, and the state Chris Chan is in right now. But Chris Chan is kind of a different crime and a different personality. What drove her to the point is completely different than Randy's. So the OCs based off of intellectual property of another and hearing them talking are where it all ends. Also, I will never cover Chris Chan. I might mention her in videos once in a while, but that's where I'm going to keep it. Randy, though, used Ember in his obsession with death, an obsession that was left unchecked.
Okay, so here's the deal. Got a 1983 quarter right here. You believe in fate? Here's the fate test. I'm gonna flip this 3 times, or the best out of 3 rather, and if it's heads, I'll do it here. If it's tails, supermarket. I can't believe I'm having this come down to a coin flip. The flip of a coin. Here it goes. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna land behind the camera, just to the side. I can't see it. I see it in the grass, but I can't see it. Tails. That is a tails, folks. Tails. Which means there's going to be a loss of a human life, besides my own. Possibly more than one. That's fate for you. I didn't cut the camera at all. I didn't cheat. It rolled the entire time. I didn't go out on different days and do this and say, oh, you could have cheated because he did this multiple times, blah, blah, blah. I did this all legit and authentically. What else do you need me to say?
There was another obsession he had, the Columbine High School Massacre. For those of you who think that school shootings and mass shootings are a new trend, they really aren't. On April 20th, 1999, Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris walked into Columbine High School in Columbine, Colorado, armed with Tech-9s, shotguns, propane bombs, and knives. They would take the lives of 13 of their classmates and teachers before killing themselves. Randy idolized Harris and Klebold, and much like them, he began to prepare. In April of 2017, Randy would upload a video where he would flip a coin. With the best of 3, the stakes of the coin flip were, if it was heads, he would kill himself there. But if it was tails, He would go to the supermarket and do it, as well as taking some with him. Now, I'm going off a couple sources that say it was uploaded. Some sources say it was a part of the suicide tapes later, so if I'm wrong, I will accept it. At that time as well, his mother gifted him a pistol-gripped shotgun. He bought himself a second shotgun, the same type as the one he got from his mother. Both shotguns were Mossberg 500 shotguns. He would upload videos of him practicing shooting.
And what we're gonna do is use slugs and try to take these out from back here. This is long-range practice. Let's go hunting. Jesus. That's a miss.
He would write in his journal his plans. He even posted on Twitter his intentions, even the date he was planning everything. These wouldn't be his last videos though. He stored up to 10 hours of videos on his media fire. These were dubbed the suicide tapes, and he would not link them until June 8th at 12:10 a.m. This next part is going to be an in-depth look into what happened the night of June 8th, 2017, as told in articles and an interview done with Kristen Newell. According to Newell, Randy was introverted and rarely spoke. She would see him when she was leaving after closing or when she was working the overnight shift stocking shelves. He would sometimes walk her to the front door and lock them behind her. When he arrived that night at 11 p.m., Randy blocked an emergency exit with his car. 19 minutes later, he uploaded his last EGS video, a video depicting himself and other EGS characters shooting up Westboro High School, which is believed to be based off of the actual school he went to as a child. None of the actors that he collabed with in the past wanted to help with this project, so he uploaded an unfinished project with angry remarks towards the end of the video of the people who worked with him before. At 12:15, Randy released the links to his suicide tapes.
You know, you see it done so often in movies. People documenting their will on tape and saying things like, if you're watching this, I'm dead. I'm sorry, you know. And honestly, I've envisioned this day coming for as long as 10 years. And I never thought it would come, but here it is. I know you could be thinking, like, you could have gotten help. You could have seen a psychiatrist. You could have gotten help. But the truth is, that wouldn't be me. Me being on medication, sitting in therapy. No. That alters who you are. It's not me. Never would be. I guess I should tell you when this started, because all throughout my life, I was never big on living. I hated life. I almost always did. I hated meeting people. You know that full well. I just hated going through everyday life. I always did. I've told you about her before. Like, if you look on the poster behind me, those were inspired by Ember McLean, which is a ghost from a TV show called Danny Phantom, which started back in 2003, 2004. You know, I was in late elementary school at that time. But this ghost, this woman always connected with me ever since I first saw her. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong camera. I have my phone on top of my camera. Keep forgetting I gotta look here. But ever since I first saw her, something changed. And it wasn't like I grew up or anything like that. Like I realized, oh my gosh, I'm attracted to girls and all this. No. It just, something changed. It was like a spark. And it just connected with me. It made me feel warm inside. And it felt very familiar, which was strange. I just became this evil, dark ghoul. The warning signs were always there. They were there from the beginning. It's the truth. It's the honest to goddess truth. And you heard me right, I said goddess. I didn't say God, I said goddess. But I don't believe in God. I believe in a goddess, which is Ember. Dad can drop f***ing dead. I'm your f***ing kid and you don't know anything about me. You don't know how I truly feel about anything and I can't tell you that stuff. And then all he fucking seemed to care about was like me getting a full-time job and making money and then trying to move out of the fucking house and start my own life and all this shit, which I knew I was never gonna do. I don't see why it was such a big fucking deal, because I was still part-time at the store. I was still making money, you fucking whore. I was making fucking money. I wasn't just sitting around doing nothing. I was virtually full-time at the fucking store as a part-time fucking worker, you damn. And you make it out to be like I wasn't doing anything with my fucking life. Kiss my fucking ass.
He then proceeded to block emergency exits with wooden pallets and lock the automatic doors in the front. He would then walk through the store, armed with his shotguns. Kristen Newell and Victoria Brong were in the same aisle, replacing tags on a shelf. According to Kristen, she was listening to music on a low volume, while Victoria was listening to hers at a high volume. They were goofing off and having a good time. Then Victoria went to get more tags. Kristen heard a couple of pops and turned back to look to where Victoria was to ask her what that was. What she saw was, standing at the end of the aisle, Randy with 2 guns, and Victoria on the floor. She watched from the middle of the aisle as he shot Victoria 2 more times. They locked eyes. Then, he turned and went down another aisle where he shot Terry Lee Sterling. Kristen was frozen in fear watching this happen. After a little bit, she rushed over to Victoria to check on her. She found a heartbeat, so she pulled out her phone and called 911. Not knowing where Randy was in the store, she moved to the self-checkout aisle, but she couldn't see him. She moved to get a better visual, and when his back was turned, she made a break for the door. Though there was stuff blocking the door as well as the automatic lock-on, she was able to get outside. She made her way to some bushes and trees and hid there. This was Kristen's own words, which goes against what you will find online, where she was oblivious to what was going on. She didn't see Brian's death, so I'm unsure where in the chain of events he was murdered. Before Victoria, before Kristen could get free from the store, or after, I don't know. She told her story in an interview with the Brohio podcast, which is where I got this information. But the other sources claim that Randy walked up to her, stood behind her, and stared at her before letting her go. When she realized what was going on, she ran to the break room, passing the bodies of her co-workers, and called 911 there. I'm going to go with her account over what I found online, as they only say it's based off of CCTV footage, but the interview she did was a year after the events, so it's more likely her story is the more plausible. But what happened after he gunned down the 3 was he began shooting at random things. At one point, trying to shoot out propane tanks to get them to explode, which didn't work. But before the cops got to the store, he found his way to the deli section, put the gun in his mouth, and he pulled the trigger. A month after the shooting, the Weis supermarket reopened after being renovated. They no longer do the night shift because of this event. Randy also emailed his friends and people he knew online before he started his rampage, knowing they wouldn't get it before it was too late. The emails mostly stated that he regrets that he couldn't live up to his accomplishments, and that he was going to join Ember. One of the emails was to his friend and one-time collab partner, Damien. Damien took to Twitter to write the following. So in 2011, there was a fan of mine who ended up being my friend. He was brought into a close friend group of mine on Xbox Live. I could tell he really just wanted some friends to play with. Eventually, we all bonded and shared a few years of laughter over some games. Once I moved, we became a little more disconnected. Last night, he wrote me a long suicide note, and today, I found out he went and shot up a grocery store, killing 3 of his fellow employees before turning the gun on himself. I don't know how to digest this. The clues were already all over the internet, but I didn't think he would go to these great lengths. Mental illness is a serious issue. Please, if you know anyone who is suffering or if you are yourself, please get help. Please don't hurt yourself and others. It is sickening and sad at the same time. Randy Stair wanted this to be as infamous as the Columbine shooting, but it wasn't. It was rarely covered at the time. There were multiple instances that somebody could have stepped in to help Randy before he dived deeper into his own demented mind. So many red flags raised from even back before his time on YouTube. I don't know honestly if he would have accepted the help, or if it would have led to a different outcome, I cannot speculate on that. But Randy even stated in his suicide tapes that there were warning signs, and no one did anything. Maybe that was the moment of clarity for him. He could recognize that he needed help. Maybe I'm just seeing things through hindsight, but I believe this could have been avoided. Anyways, there's an archive of Randy Stair videos on YouTube still, all of his EGS stuff and some of his early stuff. Which to me is shocking because I would assume that YouTube would have used their algorithm to block full episodes of a mass shooter's content. But you have Pioneersproductions archive channel and Ember Ghost Squad re-upload channel is where I got all the footage for this video. You can even find the suicide tapes online, but view at your own discretion. If you're thinking of harming yourself or others, seek help. At the end of this video, for 30 seconds, I am putting up the SAMHSA helpline, and I will link their website into the description.